Mark Carney just dropped his first spending plan, and guess what? It's Trudeau's budget on steroids. In the morning, Carney told Canadians he'd cap spending growth at 2%. By the afternoon, he tabled a bill to raise spending by 8%. So now projected spending is up from $449.2 billion to $486.9 billion, a near $38 billion increase from the guy who said he'd bring fiscal responsibility back to Canada. And what was Carney's excuse? He claims this is transformation, shifting from operational to investment spending to trigger private sector growth. But the numbers tell a different story. For starters, consultant spending jumps from $19 billion to $26 billion. Defense spending climbs from $1.79 billion, which isn't necessarily bad. Unfortunately, it comes with no strategy or plan of implementation. Now, poor CBC only gets a $42 million boost, far short of the $150 million they were promised, but don't feel too bad because this propaganda machine still pulls in over $1.4 billion of your tax dollars every year. But do you know what's still missing? The $129 billion in new liberal spending that Carney promised during the election. So this gets much worse before it gets any better. And remember, this is not because of a crisis, but because this government believes that it can spend its way to growth. It's also key to note that even when Carney says he will balance the budget, he's only talking about operating expenses. But remember what he just said. This is transformation, shifting from operational to investment spending. These so-called investment dollars tracked as capital expenses will not only not be balanced, but those dollars are going to assets the government will own or control within Canada, like housing, critical minerals, green energy, and even AI. So get comfortable with bigger deficits and even more government control. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Carney's much-hyped income tax cut, a 1% income tax cut on the first $57,375 of income. For a two-income household, that's at most $840 per year. Unfortunately, that consultant spending alone now costs each household $1,400 annually. In other words, Carney is taking your money, handing it to high-priced consultants, then tossing you some spare change while expecting your applause and appreciation. So what's changed? Well, pretty much nothing. The Liberal script is still running strong. This isn't a fiscal reset, it's a rerun. And if this is the so-called new era, let's call it what it is. The same circus with a different clown, and once again, Canadians are the ones getting a pie in the face.